Here are the top stories of the news. Lagos State government confirms the collapse of unapproved 7-story building under construction in the Ikoyi area of the state. Police arrest 2 persons following the death of Ahize Okoli, a 500-level student at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State. On the foreign scene, Qatar and Bahrain announced agreements to end a long-running diplomatic feud and re-establish relations. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Damilola Raphael. The Lagos State Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development has confirmed the collapse of an unapproved 7-story building under construction collapsed on Banana Island in the Ikoyi area of the state. It was gathered that some workers were trapped in the rubble. The building, which was under construction, collapsed yesterday evening. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, in Lagos State confirmed the incident in a brief statement, adding that few who sustained injuries were being treated and there is no fatality. Over the past few years, Lagos has been experiencing a recurring trend of building collapse, with the latest one that happened in September 2022 when a 7-story uncompleted building collapsed at Oba Idowu Oniru Street in the Lekki area of Lagos. In Osun State, 2 persons said to be members of the Awo Hall executives have been arrested by the police following the death of Ahize Okoli, a 500-level student of the Civil Engineering Department at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. According to reports, the student was accused of stealing a mobile phone in Awo Hall on Monday, and after he had been severely beaten, he was moved to the Students' Union building in the early hours of Tuesday, where he remained till around noon. It was also gathered that Okoli's health deteriorated following the beating, and he was rushed to the OAU Teaching Hospital, Ile-Ife, where he was confirmed dead on Tuesday afternoon. The Osun State Police Command, while giving an update on the incident, described the 2 people detained as student leaders. The command's spokesperson, Yemisi Okpalola, who spoke to journalists, said investigation into the incident will continue and justice would be served. Also speaking, the university's public relations officer, Abiodun Olarewaju, said the police should be allowed to investigate the matter, adding that the management of the institution would also carry out its investigation. In Ogun State, a 14-year-old boy has been confirmed dead and 2 others injured following the flash floods that hit Shagamu town in the Shagamu local government area on Tuesday after a downpour. The State Commissioner for Environment, Ola Oresanya, made the disclosure yesterday while carrying out an on-the-spot assessment of the areas affected by the floods. Speaking on the plans of the state government, the commissioner said the redesign of the drainage master plan of the state had become imperative but sought the assistance of the federal government. Oresanya, while commiserating with those affected, addressed some of the short, medium, and long-term solutions, including dredging of canals and desilting of blocked drainages. To politics, National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Samuel Anyanwu, has emerged PDP governorship candidate for the November 11th Imo State governorship election. This follows the PDP's primary held today at the State Secretariat in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Senator Anyanwu is expected to challenge the re-election of Governor Hope Uzodinma of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Meanwhile, a former governor of the state, Emeka Ihedioha, was absent at the primary. It would be recalled that Mr. Ihedioha had a few weeks ago pulled out of the PDP governorship race. In January 2020, the Supreme Court sacked him as the governor of Imo State after barely 7 months in office.
Party guidelines constitution of our great party, PDP, and above all, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I, Right Honorable Kele Tutu, the chairman of the panel, on behalf of other members of the panel, hereby declare the previous Senator Samuel
In the meantime, Bayelsa State Governor Doye Diri has been declared winner of the People's Democratic Party governorship primary to contest the November 11th governorship election. Governor Diri, who was the sole aspirant, polled a total of 305 yes votes from the delegates to emerge as the party's candidate. The primary held at the Gabriel Okara Cultural Center, Yenagoa. Chairman of the Bayelsa State Gubernatorial Election Primary Committee and Governor of Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke, urged the people of the state to support the party during the forthcoming governorship poll. He expressed happiness that the committee was able to conduct free and fair primary in the state, urging members to unite to ensure the victory of the party.
I ain't done yet. Having satisfied the requirements of this election and having scored the highest number of votes, I, Senator Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke, by the power vested in me as the chairman, chief returning officer, I repeat, chief returning officer. It sounds so good. I'm now retaliating. You know, Bayelsa and Osun said that we are now brothers. Am I talking? You do me, I do you. As the chief returning officer, I hereby declare Senator Doye Diri as the winner of the election, and therefore return him as the candidate of the PDP in the November 2023 election. Congratulations, PDP!
Elsewhere, the lawyers to the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, have urged the Code of Conduct Bureau to drop its investigation of the petition against their client by the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus Keyamo. In a letter addressed to the Bureau, the Chief Counsel, Mike Ozekome, argued that the matter is sub judice, as Keyamo had filed the same matter at the Federal High Court in Abuja. He said it is highly inappropriate for a party to a suit to take any extrajudicial steps or to embark on any course of action that is either tantamount to or calculated to undermine the authority and integrity of the court. According to Ozekome, such a behavior is condemnable as it has the potential of overreaching the court. He therefore urged the Bureau to refrain from interfering in the subject matter of Keyamo's petition and to direct him to pursue his pending litigation against Atiku to its logical conclusion. In Benue State, the state government has clarified its position on the enforcement of the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law. The governor's special advisor, media and publicity, Teve Akase, in a statement yesterday said it has become pertinent to clarify the misconceptions in some sections of the media regarding the decision of the Benue State Security Council to suspend operations of the state livestock guards for 2 weeks. According to Akase, the suspension of the livestock guards is only a grace period which became necessary to allow for reduction in the influx of cattle into the state. The governor's aide said it must be stressed that the enforcement of the anti-open grazing law is still in full force and that anyone who flouts it as the expiration of the 2 weeks grace period will be apprehended and prosecuted. In other news, the federal government has approved the sum of 6.28 billion naira for the maintenance of the third mainland bridge in Lagos State. Briefing State House correspondents yesterday after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Presidential Villa, the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, said the 24 months repair will cover 11 kilometers, including interchanges, ramps, and critical links. According to Fashola, the move aligns with Executive Order 11 signed by President Muhammadu Buhari in April 2022, giving legal backing to the country's national maintenance policy. He added that there are no anticipated prolonged closures during the works. Fashola noted that the state's Public Works Corporation will focus on the functional structure of the bridge, such as the underwater piles, while the federal government will undertake surface maintenance to treat potholes and restore missing guardrails. To security, following the uptick in cases of mob actions resulting in loss of lives and property, calls have been made to the government and relevant authorities to step up efforts to nip them in the bud. This is just as police have begun investigations into 2 separate incidents in Ondo and Osun states. Emmanuel Ujadegele completes the story.
What began as a normal Easter Monday for 22-year-old Temitope Olorunfemi and his family quickly turned into misery as the young man was stoned and clubbed to death by an angry mob comprising commercial motorcycle riders at Ijoka area of Akure, Ondo State. He had unfortunately lost control of his vehicle, killing a commercial motorcycle rider and injuring others in the process. A day later, at the Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife, Osun State, a 28-year-old 500-level student, Ahinze Okoli, was lynched over allegations of phone theft. His was under a practice in the university titled Scientific Maximum Shishi, a code name for torturing students accused of committing any offense. These 2 incidents in less than 3 days have again shone the spotlight on the phenomenon known as jungle justice. Not only are lives lost, families and loved ones of victims are often thrown into disarray and untold pain in the aftermath. Speaking on Morning Spring, a Western Spring television news and current affairs program, a legal practitioner and human rights activist Moses Obadita says jungle justice has been on for far too long because of government inaction.
So when you are beginning to promote, either directly or indirectly, that kind of the strong can oppress the weak, you will eventually realize that the society is moving to that nasty, brutish, and waste kind of life. So it is never in our culture, it is never in our constitution that you can take laws into your hand. But bequeath the law, or when there's a governance that does not frown at violation of its own law, when there's no sanction for violation of existing law, people will think that was the norm. And that is why where we are.
Sabaditon describes it as a perversion of justice while committing a crime in the name of bringing criminals to book.
But when you make law without application, people will turn the country into jungle justice. And that is the reason why we're having what we're having. Because we know, I've given you 1 or 3 people, where the 3 instances where people are killed, they are not even charged to court, and that will be the end of the story. So this cannot continue like that. And sometimes you even hear Yahoo boy kill his girlfriend. You only hear that story, and as long as the money is still available, that will be the end of the story. So these are the things that promote. It's not because of our culture. It is a new, whatever I call it, norm. It's a new thing that's coming because power is responsible. But people are now using power for irresponsible purposes.
To solve this problem and tackle the menace of jungle justice, Mr. Obadita advocates prosecution of perpetrators.
if people who decide because this man is a kidnapper or alleged Yahoo boys and you kill them, what the law should do is that those who did that act should be arrested because they are not the courts. Only the court has power to even carry out an execution order. And so when you look around and people say they did not know the law, they did not know the law. If they have killed him or killed their son, would they not know the law? So because the society have allowed it, because the society have degenerated.
In the Obafemi Awolowo University, the school management has condemned the heinous act, but this has not stopped colleagues of the deceased from embarking on the protest. In Ondo, the police command confirmed the arrest of 2 suspects alleged to be involved in the mob justice. Police spokesperson SP Fumilayo Dulami said one of the suspects allegedly masterminded the burning of Olorunfemi's car, adding that they would be prosecuted for murder and arson. Emmanuel Ujadigele, Western Spring Television News.
You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
You're welcome back. Moving on to the foreign scene now, Qatar and Bahrain have announced that they had agreed to end a long-running diplomatic feud and re-establish relationships. Bahrain in 2017 joined Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Egypt in imposing a diplomatic blockade on Qatar. Qatar's foreign ministry said agreement on the reconciliation was reached in talks at the Gulf Cooperation Council headquarters in Saudi Arabia. The neighbors decided to restore diplomatic relations between the two countries according to the principles of the United Nations Charter. Bahrain's foreign ministry released a similar statement. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Egypt imposed the blockade in 2017, accusing Qatar of supporting extremist organizations in the region and becoming too close to Iran. In Asia, North Korea has launched what could be a new type of ballistic missile that's landed in the waters between the Korean Peninsula and Japan, prompting Tokyo to lodge a strong protest after fears the weapon might land in or near its northern island of Hokkaido led to an evacuation order. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the North Korean missile was launched at a lofted angle today from a location near the capital, Pyongyang. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, who describes the launch as a grave, provocative act, added but the missile, suspected to be intermediate range or longer, flew for about 1,000 kilometers in the direction of the waters between the Korean Peninsula and Japan before falling into the sea. Japan also says the missile landed in the water but did not immediately give a more precise landing location. Elsewhere, the U.S. says it believes the United Nations Secretary General is still willing to accommodate Russian interests, according to fresh revelations in classified documents leaked online. The files suggest Washington has been closely monitoring Antonio Guterres. It is the latest from a leak of secret documents which U.S. officials are scrambling to get to the bottom of. The documents contain candid observations from Mr. Guterres about the war in Ukraine and a number of African leaders. One leaked document focuses on the Black Sea grain deal, brokered by the UN and Turkey in July following fears of a global food crisis. In the United States, former President Donald Trump is suing his former lawyer for $500 million, alleging breach of contract. He says Michael Cohen breached his duty as attorney to act in his client's best interests. The lawsuit comes amidst escalating attacks from Trump allies on Cohen, who is a key witness in a New York investigation into the ex-president. A Manhattan prosecutor last week charged Mr. Trump with fraud in relation to hush money payments to a porn star. Cohen's spokesman and lawyer, Lanny Davis, told journalists that he was confident the lawsuit against his client would fail. A strong tropical cyclone hurtled towards Western Australia today, triggering evacuations as authorities warned violent winds could toss caravans, tear down trees, and turn debris into missiles. Forecasters predict the Category 4 storm could bring gusts of up to 270 kilometers per hour, making it one of the most powerful cyclones to hit the state in a decade. The region is home to iron ore mines, gold mines, sprawling cattle ranches, and a number of Aboriginal communities. The Bureau of Meteorology said the winds will be strong enough to tear down trees and power lines and could launch caravans and trampolines. The State's Department of Fire and Emergency Services said it cannot stress enough how extreme these conditions will be for those in the area. And now to some business stories. China is racing to regulate the rapidly advancing field of artificial intelligence, AI, after competing chatbots. Under draft regulations released this week, Chinese tech companies will need to register generative AI products with China's cyberspace agency and submit them to a security assessment before they can be released to the public. The regulations cover practically all aspects of generative AI, from how it is trained to how users interact with it, in an apparent bid by Beijing to control the technology, which has prompted warnings from tech leaders including Elon Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Under the rules unveiled by the Cyberspace Administration of China, companies must ensure AI does not call for the subversion of state power or the overthrow of the ruling Chinese Communist Party, incite moves to split the country or undermine national unity, produce content that is pornographic, or encourage violence, extremism, terrorism, or discrimination. They are also restricted from using personal data as part of their generative AI training material and must require users to verify their real identity before using their products. Moving on, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has retained its growth forecast of 3.2% for Nigeria's economy in 2023. The IMF, in its World Economic Outlook for April 2023, also forecast a 3% growth in the country's gross domestic product for 2024. Other countries highlighted in its 2023 projections were USA, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Japan, UK, and Canada. The projection by the Washington, D.C. based Global